तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे।
Hare Krishna. I don't know whether this is working. Am I loud enough?
Yeah.
Is this working? So, you all remember the 6 needs we have been discussing for the past 3 days. Can we go on a recap of the list? The first need of a sadhaka, security and protection. Second,
Self-worth.
self-worth. Third,
Self-expression.
yes. Devotee community should be a facility to express ourselves. That is the third need to be fulfilled. Fourth, that is the last.
That's the sixth one.
Spiritual direction, yes. That is the fourth one. Fifth is satisfactory service. And last is soul searching friendship. One time, Lord Vishnu was visiting Lord Shiva. And who is the carrier of Lord Vishnu? Garudaji. And Lord Shiva has a snake around his neck. Now you see, eagle and snakes, they don't go well each other. Their chemistry doesn't go well with each other. So as Vishnu is approaching Lord Shiva's abode on his carrier Garudaji, So Garud, looking at the snake around the neck of Lord Shiva, the snake starts hissing at Garudji. And Garudji was quite surprised seeing this. So there is a beautiful verse which Garudji, he speaks that particular part, in which he says to the snake, Sthana pradhana na bala pradhana. That you are hissing at me not because of your bala, न बल प्रधान, तुम्हारे बल में कोई प्रधानता नहीं है। जिस स्थान पर तुम स्थित हो शिवजी के गले पर, that is giving you all the power to hiss at me. फिर हिंदी में कहते हैं बाहर निकल दे। So Garudji was telling this name. Now, what do we understand? We coming in association of devotees, we are also like that snake around the neck of Lord Shiva. Sthana pradhana na bala pradhana. The glory is of the process, the connection. It was the connection with Lord Shiva which made that snake into also so powerful and worshipable. So when we come in connection with the process, with the Krishna element, we don't even realize that how that empowerment gives us such facilities to serve Krishna in such wonderful, variegated way. How many of us, we had ever thought that we could discuss with each other such an intense philosophy? First of all, understand that philosophy. And then start practicing it by chanting Hare Krishna, by following the principles. And then of course telling others about the philosophy. So all of these things, they are, features which we had never ever imagined we could accomplish. Till this day. And how is it happening? It's by the grace of Krishna. Like in the Mahabharata, there is the story where after the Mahabharata war, Krishna is asking Arjun that you get down the chariot first. And then when Krishna got down, the entire chariot was in flames. So, Krishna wanted to make Arjun understand that it was me because of which your chariot was intact and you were able to win this war. So therefore, when we are trying to practice our devotional service, we have to understand that at every stage we are dependent on this Krishna connection. Everything is interdependent in devotee community. Not just dependent, but interdependent. Forget about independent. We are interdependent. So therefore, we have to be in that consciousness whenever we associate with devotees and not take things for granted. Because the worst thing which can happen in a devotee community is when we start taking things for granted. That is the most powerful weapon of Maya. Forget about anger, greed, lust. The most powerful weapon of Maya is when she gives us that consciousness wherein we start taking things for granted. And when we start taking things for granted, when we start taking mercy for granted, the greatest anartha of all, according to Bhishma Pitama in the Mahabharata, he mentions this to Yudhishthir Maharaj, that the greatest of all sin which one can commit is ingratitude. Become ungrateful. What is the Sanskrit for gratitude? Anyone knows?
Krutagnata.
Krutagnata. In that, there is this syllable gya, which comes from jnana, which means to have memory, good memory. Gya refers to having good memory. So unless you remind yourself of what you have been blessed with, you need to have that memory for that. You cannot be kritagya. Kritagna means ungrateful, which means when you forget what you have received, what mercy, what favors you have received, when you forget that, then you become ungrateful. And when you always keep reminding yourself, remember the mercy which has been received, that will always keep us grateful. And that is the safest position to be in, to be always grateful. Otherwise, you'll become great fools. So on this note, I would invite questions as we have proposed, that we will be having a question answer session this evening. So I don't know whether you have some questions written down or just spontaneously ask a question. Yes, ma'am. You may have to be a little louder.
Thank you for the lovely class. The Vrajavasis, the devotees in Vrindavan, there seems to be no indication that they had any needs to become devotees. It's amazing that they just pleased the Lord so spontaneously and naturally. How did it happen? I mean, how is it that there's something special about the devotees in Vrindavan, the Vrajavasis? That their affection is so great and it's just the best. There's nothing that can beat that level of affection to the Lord. And nowhere is there any mention that these devotees struggle to go to that stage, or that they were on the path and they have to work on it or practice it, or that they have to go
No, it
through
is
trials.
mentioned that all of these dear associates of the Supreme Lord, they had performed great penances and austerities, and in fact in the Srimad Bhagavatam it is mentioned that anyone who realizes Krishna as the Supreme Master, the Supreme Lover, the wholesale person for oneself, just that realization, one cannot get automatically. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudevam sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. That after many births of this understanding, the jnanis means one who are studying the scriptures, and the yogis who are performing all kinds of austerities, after many births and lifetimes, then they come to the understanding Vasudevam Sarvamiti, that Lord Vasudev, he is the supreme most. Then we have Yoginam api sarvesham, that verse again from the Bhagavad Gita, wherein Krishna explains that out of all the yogis, one who has understood this and one with love and devotion. So Brajavasis, yes, about the gopis it is mentioned that they were the yogis from the Dandakaranya forest in Lord Ram's pastimes. And then later on they became the gopis. So there is the mention of the Munichari gopis and all of these different categories of gopis. So yes, but that is not so much focused upon because it's not that on the basis of that you can get Krishna. Again, we should not mistake this. That on the basis of austerities, penances and jnana can you achieve Krishna. It was these Brajavasis, their innocent love, which was the result of they choosing Krishna over everything else and everyone else. So herein, what we learn from the Brajavasis is how to always choose Krishna in whatever situation. Whether there were happy tidings or whether there were catastrophes or calamities, they always chose Krishna. And not because Krishna would save them. Again, so that is how one's sincere, pure desire to just please Krishna. That's the hallmark of Brajavasis. That no matter what, in fact, when the gopis would come complaining against Krishna for Krishna stealing their butter, that was to please Krishna. Because Krishna said that when they rebuke me, those rebukes are more pleasing to me than the Vedic hymns. So whatever they would do, their focus was to please Krishna. So how to have a Braja Bhav? If we want to follow in the footsteps of Brajavasis and want to have a Braj Bhav, no matter what is our situation, what is our position, whatever we do, if we do to please Guru and Gauranga, Vaishnavas, then that is Braja Bhav. And when they would do that, even having that desire to always please Krishna, that's how Krishna would reciprocate them with them. So, as I was saying, that's reciprocal.
So is that meaning to say that without, for example, ourselves in this Kali Yuga, I do not think that for example, myself, I do not think that I have done such austerities in my past lives, just for discussion purposes. Are you suggesting that we can have the level of devotion that the Brajavasis had by constant practice, and I'm just trying to work out what is it that was so unique and special in Vrindavan that we are unable to get to that stage?
No, it's not that we are unable and we won't be able to any time. Like I said, how do we define ourselves? I am work in progress. So yes, if we have come to this point of understanding that Krishna is your Supreme Master, which means this signifies that already in your previous lives you have gone through. Again in the Srimad Bhagavatam there is that verse, Aho bada shopacho to gariyan yad jivhagare vartate nama tubhyam tepus tapaste juhu sashnuradi. It is said that one who can sincerely chant और जिह्वा के अग्र भाग पर यदि भगवान कृष्ण का नाम आ रहा है, which means that person has already performed all austerities, read all the scriptures, been to all the holy places. And the result of all of that, doing all of that, is that one is able to chant the holy name. So if you are able to chant the holy name, if you are able to recognize Krishna as your supreme master, know for sure that you have gone through all of that already. And you are on your way if you sincerely follow in the footsteps as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Gopi Bhartur Padikamalavyo Das Dasamadas. That we have to follow in the footsteps of these great souls, not to become like them, but to serve them, to get inspired by them and to become not just their servant, but the servant of their servants. So if we have that mood, we don't have to worry whether we'll be able to get that or not. We have to play our part, and definitely Krishna is going to bestow upon us. You know, like at our Nasik temple, we have the altar doors, and the altar doors, they are the sliding ones, So they slide, and 4 of these doors they slide, and that's how it closes. So I was observing that it's like the depiction of the spiritual world. The Lord's altar is like the depiction of the spiritual world. So these altar doors are also like the doors of the spiritual world. They open from inside. So you are there outside. I guess over here also you have these curtains. They open from inside. Always you find the pujari from inside opening it. So the altar door, whenever I see over there at our temple in Nasik, I always have this feeling that going into spiritual world is also like that. Yes, you wait outside, you perform your sadhana, your kirtan, your eagerness to have the darshan of the Lord, and then when the time is right, there is the associate of the Lord inside the altar who will open the doors from inside. So we have to play our part, and yes, of course, the doors will open. And the Lord is of course there, and the doors are going to open. Okay?
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Yes, sir.
Thank you for the amazing classes. So on Sunday you were talking about self-expression,
Yeah.
and I was thinking, so if someone has lots of talents, or someone if there's talents that they've got that haven't come out yet, or like they're still finding some talents, or maybe there's something they haven't found yet. How is the process for this in the movement? How can you figure out what's best suited for someone, and if they've got lots of talents or they're not sure what they want to contribute, and how to set a system in place to try and encourage.
I was told that over here in this country, that there are these people who give you directions which branch to choose in your education. So they find out. You are the name? So, what are they called? Counselor. Career counselors. Career counselors. So there are these career counselors. So yes, when someone is that young, that may not know that what career to choose, so they go to the career counselors, and the career counselors, so they interview. They ask certain questions that what is your proclivity, and what are you good at, and all of that. And that series of questions, then they come to the conclusion that, okay, they say that this is suited for you, this particular branch is suited for you. So that is also true when we come in the devotee association. So here also we have the spiritual career counselor. Okay. So you come over here, and when you come regularly, so they will see that what is your core competence. And when they see your core competence, then they know with their experience, with their maturity, that how to engage you with using your core competence in the service of Krishna. And we see that this has been in the parampara, how Krishna himself, he, we were giving the example of Jarasandha. If you could use Jarasandha in his service to accomplish his mission to vanquish the miscreants, and Jarasandha was doing, on behalf of Krishna, bringing all these miscreants to Krishna. So, Krishna understood what is the core competence of Jarasandha, that he was a good motivator. That he would motivate and bring people again and again, 17 times. So Krishna used, if Krishna can use Jarasandha's core competence to establish his mission, what to speak of someone who is favorable towards Krishna's mission. So, and then we see within ISKCON, when Srila Prabhupada, I was giving the example, so many examples of Srila Prabhupada, when Prabhupada saw someone who knew woodwork, Prabhupada engaged, okay, you carve the deities of Lord Jagannath. Somebody who was good at painting. You see these lovely, wonderful paintings, they were all done by these artists, the talents were there. And there was, so Prabhupada was like their career counselor, and he was guiding them properly that how to use your talents. Somebody was good at managing, somebody was good at fundraising, somebody was good at speaking, singing, cooking. And Prabhupada used, we have Jamuna Devi, she was good at cooking, and she wrote that book which became one of the best sellers as far as vegetarian cookbooks. So all of this, Prabhupada, he knew that how to engage. So one has to have that proper guide. And of course Guru Sadhu Shastra is there, but we still need someone who can properly guide. So that's okay?
What if you have lots of talents?
Huh?
What if you have lots of talents?
Oh, so well, you just make a list and give it to Radha Mata. Okay? He will be more than happy. Huh?
Make a lot of him.
I just want to ask a question. You said that in all the calamities and disasters, and people were thinking of Krishna, right? So what about if you think about a demigod? Isn't that linked to Krishna? Think of a demigod instead. Because in the other temple, Sastriji said, you worship whichever god you love, whichever god your heart tells you to love, and it all leads to Krishna. Is that right? How do you define that?
Now see, I would explain this with an example. Now traditionally, in the Vedic tradition, when a lady gets married, so when she comes to her in-laws' house after marriage, so then she has, her in-laws, and there might be so many. The husband's brother, husband's brother's wife, husband's sister, husband's sister's husband, father-in-law, mother-in-law, and the list goes on. And they are called what? In-laws. Now, she has developed relationship now with the in-laws. What is the basis of her having in-laws? What is the basis?
Extension.
No, basis.
Husband.
Husband. Why would she care otherwise, of all the others? The husband. So we are Prakriti, and Krishna is our husband, and demigods are like in-laws. Now, if a lady says, I have in-laws but no husband, does that make sense? Does that make sense? ससुराल वाले सब हैं, पति नहीं है. अरे बिना पति के ससुराल कैसे हो सकता है? Okay, so yes, you respect your in-laws, but you have given your life to your husband. So yes, we respect all the devatas. Why? Because they have connection with Krishna. But our Vedic scriptures explain that we as Prakriti, our Pati, therefore he is called Jivapati. One of the name of Krishna is Jivapati. Very interesting name of Krishna. He is the husband of all Jivas. So yes, this is the proper understanding. If anyone, or you yourself, or if anyone is asking you that how can I understand the relationship which I should be having with the devatas and Krishna's relationship with the devatas, remember the example of the lady after marriage having relationship with in-laws, the basis is the husband. Now if someone says that, worshipping any devata is like worshipping Krishna. Do you want me to go ahead with this example now?
Yes.
I think you got it. It's like all in-laws are my husband. No. Okay? I guess you all got it.
It's a bit like the Queen and the King, isn't it? The Queen and the King don't have a very specific position, unlike everyone else.
So Krishna is the husband wherein we surrender our life and soul.
But probably these demigods, are they not like cabinet ministers and Krishna is a prime minister? Do they not sort of carry things to you, like messages and things like that?
Yeah, so you know that. If someone is, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his Krishna consciousness process, Srila Prabhupada, they are offering you, direct audience with the Prime Minister. So why you want to take detours and go here and there with the cabinet ministers? Srila Prabhupada, the process given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are saying direct audience with the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister is saying, who is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Prime Minister. And he is saying, yes, here I am. The holy name is the Prime Minister, the Prime Mantra. Therefore it's called Mahamantra.
So is it
Mahamantri.
not difficult to get access straight to Krishna without the messengers carrying
Now
on?
that's what I am telling you. David Cameron. Now if David Cameron, who is the Prime Minister of this country, and if he is directly calling you and telling you, I am giving a personal appointment that you can come and have an audience with me, would you be asking him, but what about your cabinet ministers? He is saying, I am personally inviting you, sending a card. Huh? So that is what is our fortune in Kali Yuga. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has personally come and he has given us the process by which we can directly have a contact with the holy name, which is Supreme Personality of Godhead, every moment of our existence in this world. So when something is so openly offered to us, we just have to grab it. That's what is it.
Prabhuji,
is क्या?
Pashupati.
Pashupati. Pashu refers to actually animal. Very commonly used word Pashu. So yes, Lord Shiva, he is called Pashupati Nath because there are living entities who are in that consciousness. You know, like he is also called Bhutanath because he has been given the charge of those living entities who are very difficult to handle. The ghosts, the hobgoblins, you know, these kind of personalities, pishachas, bhutas, and those who are in animal consciousness. So therefore he takes charge of them on behalf of Jivapati. So he is doing that on behalf of Jivapati. Okay? Anything else?
Just to elaborate on that point again about how we in Krishna consciousness pray directly to Krishna or serve Krishna. But many temples all over India and all over the world seem to be dedicated to demigods. So why is this so in relation to ISKCON? Why are these temples so many more and so widespread?
Good question.
Is this just ignorance, or are they following another path that is also?
No, that's not another path. See, there is nothing wrong in regarding these devatas as such exalted beings because they are exalted. Like she said, they're like, you compare them as cabinet ministers, and they are in the government of Krishna, on behalf of Krishna, taking care of so many departments, managing the universe, universes in fact. So they definitely deserve that respect. And we find that many times people, when they approach these devatas, they have power to bestow benedictions which might help us to come to Krishna in a convenient way. Just like there are these devatas who can give you good health, who can, iron out the problems in your life. But the purpose is that all of that should conveniently bring you closer to Krishna. That's what they were meant for. But what happens is, when you get those conveniences and facilities and you forget what it was meant for, there comes a problem. Then they start using those facilities and resources which they have been bestowed upon by the demigods for some ulterior purposes, for some materialistic, way. So then they are called the karma kandis. Now we have the gopis. In fact, this month, the gopis, they performed Katyayani Vrat. Now what is Katyayani? Who is Katyayani? She is an expansion of Durga Devi. So they were performing this Vrata to please Katyayani Devi, Durga Devi, to have Krishna as their husband. Now, Nanda Maharaj, he would perform Indra Yagya every year. Why Indra Yagya? Because Indra is the god of rain. And as Vaishyas, Nanda Maharaj, he required rain for his cow protection and his farming. But that would be used eventually again in the service of Lord Krishna. Everything eventually will be used in the service of Lord Krishna. So you have the example of gopis performing Katyayani Vrata, you have Indra Puja performed by Nanda Maharaj. It appears to be like, demigod worship going on. But you look into their intentions, you look into the mood and eventuality of that is to offer it to Krishna. So when that is done, that is the right way. Even if somebody who has, feelings for a devata, that is the right way of performing Dev Puja. But unfortunately, as what you are pointing towards is, why most people they are seen approaching these devatas, because quickly they get all the conveniences, so they want the best of both. They want the spiritual side also in their life, and they want the conveniences. Just like the classic example is of Vrikasur. Now this Vrikasur was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, and the kind of austerities he was performing to force Lord Shiva to give him benediction. He was slicing away his flesh and offering it as ahuti, and to the point that he was about to chop his head off when Lord Shiva was forced to come and, what do you want? What are you up to? And now you have, imagine you have forced Lord Shiva to come in front of you. Who is Lord Shiva? He is the greatest Vaishnava. Now he could have asked that, kindly give me, Vaishnava-like qualities. He could have asked that. But you know what he asked? That whoever head I touch, that head should burst into pieces. Now, what kind of lowly consciousness is that? And why he wanted that? So Lord Shiva, he was thinking that, what kind of benedictions will I have to give now? These kind of people. So he was forced to give him that benediction, that whoever head he touches, that head will burst into pieces, explode. And then, after getting the benediction, with his hand held like that, he is after Lord Shiva. He wanted to touch Lord Shiva's head. Why? Because he wanted to enjoy Parvati. Now this is not called you are worshipping your worshipable Lord out of respect or out of love. You are simply using, so these people are simply using, the facilities given by the demigods. In fact, misusing. So that is what is condemned. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya, he knew that in Kali Yuga people already they are so materialistic. And if demigod worship is given as a formal means, they will be more confused and they will get more carried away by the conveniences and facilities. So therefore Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, just chant Hare Krishna and you can directly contact me. So it's like the direct hotline number. You have the direct hotline number of Krishna. What is the direct hotline number of Krishna?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
No operator in between here and there. Direct hotline. Okay? What to speak of that? Krishna keeps giving missed calls to us. And we keep missing his calls.
Yeah, I got one. Like Lord Rama, he's the Supreme Personality as well. But in Ramayana says that he worships Lord Shiva to get the victory. So why does that happen then? Why did he worship Lord Shiva if he is himself as a Supreme Personality?
See, the relationship between Lord Ram and Lord Shiva is very intimate. Lord Shiva is considered to be the greatest devotee of Lord Ram. He is the greatest Vaishnavanam Yathasham. So they both share a very, very intimate relation. So when there are two people who are sharing very intimate relation, we can never judge that why they are doing what they are doing. So when Lord Ram is requesting Lord Shiva to benedict him, that is out of his intimacy and out of his love. And Lord Shiva is not considering that, okay, I am superior to Lord Ram, so I'll benedict. In fact, the word Rameshwar, we have the place Rameshwaram, wherein this incident took place, that Lord Ram is regarding Lord Shiva as a Ishwar. So it is not out of anyone who is superior, who is inferior. It's not out of that. It is out of pure intimate affection, love and affection, that they have this kind of interaction with each other. So Rameshwaram means, if you ask Lord Shiva, he says, Ram, who is my Ishwara. And Lord Ram, who considers Lord Shiva so superior, because Lord Ram has come as a human. So because he has come as a human, so he is playing the role of a human. Remember, Lord Ram is playing the role of being a human. He is not human. He is playing the role.
But as you given the example, that Prime Minister one, yeah? Prime Minister is the one who takes a final decision. So Lord Rama should be the one who takes a final decision. Like, I mean, he's the Prime Minister. He won't like ask his ministers, what should I take the decision? You know what I mean? He's the boss, like.
No. Who says that
Look,
Prime Minister never consults?
No, he does concern, but he's the one, main man, like, who takes the decision. And
Yeah, so, there is that pastime, I'll tell you now, this one incident will clarify this thing. That, Ravan was also a devotee of Lord Shiva. So on the final day, which day? Vijayadashmi, Dashera. And that signifies the killing of Ravan. Okay. Now on that day, as Ravan is, coming on the battlefield, before he comes, he is worshipping Lord Shiva. So he is chanting Om Namah Shivaya and he is doing his sadhana to seek all the blessings of Lord Shiva. And that's the day when Lord Ram has decided that, okay, this is the day Ravan is to be killed. So, Parvati, she sees that Lord Shiva, he is not at all reciprocating with Ravan on that day. So Parvati is asking Lord Shiva that how come I always see that somehow or the other you reciprocate whenever this Ravan, he invokes you. But today I see something different. So Lord Shiva, he says that today my master has taken the decision to finish him off. I have no jurisdiction, I have no authority to come in the way of my master's decision. And who is that master? Lord Ram. That's what Lord Shiva, he tells to Parvati. आज मैं इन दोनों के बीच में हूँ. So the Prime Minister has taken the decision. So that's how the Supreme Lord, when it comes to, and again, yes, you are right, Lord Ram doesn't need anyone's blessings. Lord Ram doesn't need anyone's well wishes. But we have to understand that we are talking about a God who is sentient, who is full of feelings. You see? So just like, how sometimes you find that the father who has given birth to a son, takes help from the son. And that is not that the father has become inferior to the son, but again, if the father is taking help from the son, that is out of love. That is out of love. And this is what the mood is between Lord Shiva and Lord Ram. And that is to be appreciated. In fact, in the Padma Puran, now this is from, again coming from the mouth, directly from the mouth of Lord Shiva. So if Shiva was any way superior than Lord Ram, this verse won't be spoken by Lord Shiva, and that too Lord Shiva is speaking this verse to his wife. Now husbands, when they speak to their wife, that too in a very private conversation. This was a very private conversation Lord Shiva is having with his wife. So Parvati is asking Lord Shiva, so who's the supreme, most worshipable? And here is Lord Shiva is revealing his heart to his dear wife. He says, Aradhananam sarvesham madhyatenanta. Sorry. Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnur aradhanam param. He is saying that amongst all kinds of worship, aradhana, the worship of Lord Vishnu is the supreme most. So this is again coming from Lord Shiva himself. So therefore, any pastime of this sort, this question is a very commonly asked question. This interaction between Lord Ram and Lord Shiva, and specifically Lord Ram is worshipping Lord Shiva. So we have to always, these kind of pastimes of the Lord with his dear associates, we have to always understand with the proper context. Therefore, our Vedic scriptures, they are not textual, they are contextual. You see? Like, Srila Prabhupada gave that example. I think it was over here, the Prime Minister of this country, Mr. Gladstone, at some point of time. That, this Prime Minister, someone came to meet him. And he was waiting, and he was waiting. And he was becoming impatient. So he saw that what is this Prime Minister doing? It's been so many hours. So from the keyhole, he tries to see what is the Prime Minister doing inside, and he saw that the Prime Minister is having his grandson on the back. And the grandson is like kind of riding the Prime Minister or the grandfather. And he's, like using a whip. And, okay, faster, faster, faster. And the Prime Minister, Mr. Gladstone, is, on his force, behaving like a horse of the grandson. So Prabhupada used to give this example. So now, what do you think what's happening?
I got that from church.
Huh?
I got that.
Any other?
I don't wish to labor the point, but similarly, when Krishna took a human avatar, did Indra and Brahma, they challenged him as well. Was that again through ignorance that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
See, as far as those two specific pastimes, Govardhan Leela and Brahma Vimohan Leela, our acharyas, they have commented that Krishna very specifically used Indra and Brahmaji to teach the general populace the lesson of false pride and how one can mistake someone's being very lenient, how Brahmaji, he mistook Krishna being ordinary. He mistook Krishna as like any other ordinary child. So Krishna, whenever he wants to impart a very specific lesson, he uses his own dear associates to impart that lesson. So Prabhupada used to give the example that again in a traditional, Vedic house, when the newly wed daughter-in-law has come, so the mother-in-law, when she has to tell something to the daughter-in-law, so she would tell by telling the daughter, not directly to the daughter-in-law. So if the daughter-in-law is not, doing things properly, and to do it in a civilized way. Of course, nowadays things are different. That's another story. Like there was one daughter-in-law, and one particular day, so they were not at good terms. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law were not at good terms. But one day, this daughter-in-law started to serve the mother-in-law from morning itself, glasses of milk, hot milk. And that was like a little surprising for the mother-in-law. Since morning, glass after glass milk, is being served. So finally she is asking, "Kyun bhai, aaj kya hai? Baat kya hai?" So the daughter-in-law says, "Today is Nag Panchami." So Prabhupada gave the example that in a civilized way, in a civilized family, the mother-in-law, it would be quite harsh and impolite because that she has newly come to the house, so she is a little nervous. So that's how the mother-in-law would correct the daughter-in-law by using the daughter. The daughter might have not done anything wrong. This is not how you clean the floor. So, the daughter might have done it correctly, or she knows how to do it, but the mother-in-law, or in this case, the mother telling to the daughter, "This is how you should clean the floor. You don't know how to clean the floor," and the daughter-in-law is overhearing all that. So she, okay, like he said, I got the point. You got the point?
I got
Good. So we are the daughter-in-laws, and Indra and Brahmaji, they are like the daughters. Next question.
We can discuss this nice connection between gratitude and taking things for granted. I never connected these two, but today it's connected these two. So, when the sadhaka or as a practicing devotee, we should, as in Krishna consciousness, are very enthusiastic. And then, slowly we can get grips in. And then we think things we take it for granted. Could you please elaborate more? The stages of things taken granted. Where does it start from? Is it today? The devotees, okay, devotees is always there. So I don't need anymore. Going to temple is anyway. So we say that today I don't. So could you please elaborate on where does this great
Ingratitude.
things getting granted? Where does it start from? So we can say this is the kind of alarm for this time.
Prabhuji, for us who are hard of hearing, could you just repeat the question, please, before you answer?
His question is that how does this thing start when we start to take things for granted. Like I was in the beginning, I was saying, because of ingratitude, slowly the mercy, initially when we come to Krishna consciousness, it's like, we feel like as if we are the most fallen, in the mood of a beggar. We're always for mercy, even a very new devotee, we want also mercy from that devotee. But then as we start living with devotees in Krishna consciousness, then we say, oh, well, I can also do that. So then we start taking things for granted. Now, the reason for that is that we, of course, false ego is always, the root cause of everything. That we start feeling that I deserve it. When we get this feeling that I deserve this, that is the beginning of taking things for granted. Now, imagine the mindset of a beggar. You don't see so many beggars over here, but in India you must have seen so many beggars. Imagine the mindset of a beggar. And at a traffic light, so many beggars, they knock on your window and they ask for bakshish like that. What are they expecting? Maybe few coins. Now imagine if somebody puts in the begging bowl of this beggar a check, 1 million pounds. What will be the feeling of the beggar?
We go mental,
Like there was this one beggar, he would every day receive 2 rupees from a man. This man, on his way to the office, he would give 2 rupees to this beggar. So it was fixed. The time was fixed, the amount was fixed, and the beggar was fixed. 2 rupees. Now it so happened that this man, he had to go out of town, for a week. So after a week, when this man comes back, the beggar, he says, 14 rupees. 2 rupees for each day. You're due. Which means, because he was every day getting 2 rupees, he started to think that I deserve it. That is how it begins. The nature of the Kali Yuga mind is, when you start getting things on a regular basis, we start thinking that I am the rightful owner of the mercy. Just like this beggar was thinking, 14 rupees. He was demanding. He was not begging at that time, he was demanding. Now, I'll tell you, since I used to read a lot of books on human psychology. So this is how I still remember that how the human psychology it works and sometimes how it cheats us. Now, there is something called the guilt feeling which we humans feel when we do something wrong. Huh? Now my question to you, is that a good sign or is that a bad sign? Why it's a good sign?
Realization.
That you feel guilty because you are feeling the presence of someone superior within you who is there to judge you. That's the Lord in the heart. Which means that guilt feeling is the first recognition of the Lord in the heart. If somebody who doesn't even recognize that there is Lord in the heart or the conscious feeling, whatever, will be shameless in whatever one does. So no guilt feeling leads to shamelessness. So when I was going through the sequence of how one degrades in one's consciousness after sinning. So a sinner, he can come to the right track if he takes the root of guilt. So once he sins and then he has guilt feeling, then he rectifies. Like we were discussing about the divine way of handling problems. You remember that? You recognize, you regret, and you rectify. You remember that? The divine way of dealing with mistakes. Now, a sinner who doesn't have that guilt feeling, the next stage is he'll become shameless. The number of times he commits that mistake again and again, now he does it on purpose. So then he goes into the next category, which is being shameless. The next category, after being shameless, he will justify. And therefore we find people, when they do wrong, and if they are not having the guilt feeling, rather if they are shameless, the next stage they come to, they justify their wrongdoings. That's even more serious of a problem than the sin itself. And the last stage is when they make a philosophy out of that wrongdoing. Yeah, that's Kalyu. So you understand the sequence? Sin, shamelessness, justification, philosophy out of that sin. And people, they have followings also.
Isn't that the same symptom of Kali and atheism in the Western countries?
Yeah.
Is that now atheism is the biggest group in the population.
Yeah.
They justify it, and now if you actually mention a faith, people laugh at you in the Western countries.
Yeah.
They actually literally ridicule you for having a faith, any faith.
Like I guess last time I was telling this story that there was one scientist who was on plane. And he was an atheistic one, and he was on plane. And there was a small girl, she was reading a book, and so he wanted to start a conversation with this small girl. So the plane took off, so he asked, so how about we having a conversation? So the girl, she was reading a book and then she had to pay attention to him. So she asked, so what do you want to discuss? So he, being an atheist, he says, how about, does God exist? So she asked him, first you tell me that when a goat passes stool, the stool, they are like small, pellets. When a horse passes stool, they are like, big round mounds. And when a cow passes dung, it's like, flat cakes. They all eat grass. The goat, the horse, the cow. How come their stool is of different shapes? You are a scientist. I'm a scientist was like, "Ooh." He was flabbergasted. He, shrugged his shoulders and he said, I have no clue. And she said, you don't know shit about things. And you want to discuss, does God exist? She went back reading. So, you see, the question is that, of course, yours is a different question. First, let's focus on this question of that taking things for granted. So, what I read about this sequence of the psychological degradation of sinning, justifying, and then philosophizing. But when you're talking of guilt, when we focus on that, we will always balance our consciousness that I am an undeserving candidate. That beggar who receives £1 million check, the first feeling is he never expected. When never expecting, will never feel oneself as a deserving candidate. So if we always keep that consciousness, no matter how many years we are in Krishna consciousness, but if we look into our past, that what did I do to receive the mercy of the most magnanimous of all incarnations? Srila Prabhupada was asked this question by his disciples. We who were hippies, we were like bums on the street. We were the reject. In our own materialistic society, we were the rejects. These hippies were rejected by their own people. And you come here and you give us the topmost of all process of God realization. What did we do to receive this? Prabhupada said, you didn't have any qualification, I created your qualification. So, when we are also in this consciousness that I didn't have any qualification, like that story I told, of that suicider who jumped and he happened to jump on that crocodile. And lo and behold, he is the prince. So our situation is like that. We were not of any heroes wanting to save any princes. We were frustrated with our own lives, wanting to jump from a cliff, happened to jump on a crocodile, save a princess, and here we become the Jamai Raja of the king. So to have that consciousness, and for that we have to look into the mood in which our Vaishnava Acharyas, they presented their Krishna consciousness. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Narottam Das Thakur, they wrote these songs, and in these songs what are they expressing? They are saying that I am the most fallen. Amar Jivan Sada Papirat. Now the literal meaning of this Bengali bhajan is, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying that Amar Jivan, my life is full of sin. Now he is Kamal Manjari. He is an eternal associate of Manjari Gopi from the spiritual world, and this is his consciousness which he is saying. So when we look into their lives and their consciousness, we will always feel that, where am I? Who am I? What is my position? What is my situation? And then, if we are in that consciousness that I don't deserve, in fact, looking into my habits and my activities and what I have done in my life, I should have been, in Yamaraj's movement from this point. So to be in this consciousness of feeling oneself undeserving, that is the safest position. Like Prabhupada once told to one of his disciples that if you feel yourself fallen, you will never have the fear of tripping. Because if you are always on the floor, where else will you fall? But the higher you go, the greater is the danger of tripping and falling down. Yes, this has to be cultivated. You may hear about this, and yes, after hearing this, then for 1 hour, the charge is there. What kind of charge? The charge of being the most insignificant devotee in the whole of ISKCON. And after 1 hour, self-worth, we are talking about that self-worth, over magnified. And when, people at home, and they start glorifying you, and you become you know that you are the breadwinner of the family, and you have skills, and other devotees also, after you have that consciousness, they say, Prabhu, you are the most humble. So, I am the most amongst the most fallen. I am the supreme among the most fallen. तो उसमें भी गोल्ड मेडल मुझे ही मिला. Okay. So therefore, we have to always keep reminding ourselves in the right way, in the right consciousness, and having the association of the right people who will help us remain in that right consciousness. Yeah?
There's a question here.
Yes.
Please forgive my understanding, but why are our scriptures to be understood in a contextual way? Why is it not like a simple Bible story or something?
No, in fact, it is easy if you understand with the context. If, there is this story of a person from the Islamic faith. And this person, he was a devout Muslim, offering his namaz 5 times a day, going to the mosque. All of a sudden, he stopped going to the mosque. And the Maulvi was very much concerned that, he was so regular, so religious. Why? What happened? So after a couple of months, this Maulvi meets him somewhere, in some market area. So the Maulvi is asking him that, what happened? Why you stopped coming to the mosque? So he said, I read in the Quran that one should not enter the mosque to offer namaz. I said, what? You read it where? That is the Quran. I can show you. So he got the Quran and he showed him the Quran. And yes, the Maulvi also read. The line said, one should not enter the mosque to offer namaz. But that was the last line on that page. So the Maulvi turned, and after the comma, the complete line was, without washing one's hands and feet. So the complete line was, one should not enter the mosque to offer namaz without washing one's hands and feet. So this is called understanding the line with the context. Like, say for example, like it keeps happening, people coming in and out from this door. So, the speaker from here, he is saying, the goal of human form of life is sense gratification. And some of said, wow, Hare Krishna, that changed. Huh? So he listens to that one line spoken by the speaker. The goal of human form of life is sense gratification. So he listens to that and he goes out and he starts a movement. But the speaker actually said, this was told by Hiranyakashipu. He missed out on that. So therefore, when we understand the statements from the scriptures, therefore, what are Prabhupada's purports? Our Acharya's commentaries, they are nothing but giving us the contextual meaning. Otherwise, just listening to the Sanskrit. Now, people, they have interpreted the Bhagavad Gita verses the way they want it to be. Like one person, he was telling that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita you should drink tea. So, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita you should drink tea. Where in the Bhagavad Gita Krishna says you should drink tea? So he quoted the Bhagavad Gita shloka. Maya chapi, tvaya chapi. Now, he went on to say that Krishna is not only saying you, but I will also. Maya chapi and you also. So both Krishna and Arjun both, chalo बैठ के चाय पीते.
Or chai, bee. Drink the chai.
So now we are laughing at this, but people, they have done serious misinterpretations of the actual text of the Bhagavad Gita. Yeah. Like Shankaracharya said, Bhajo Govindam, Bhajo Govindam, Bhajo Govindam, Mudhamate. That's a famous what Shankaracharya told. So now some of the so-called followers of Shankaracharya, how they misinterpreted this, what the actual meaning Shankaracharya meant by this couplet was that the foolish ones, Mudhamate means अरे मूढ़मति वाले हो, गोविंद को भजो. This is the meaning. Now the misinterpretation has been taken place to such an extent. They say what Shankaracharya meant was only the Mudhamate will worship Govinda. Therefore, you need proper acharyas who can give you the contextual meaning. Otherwise, Maya chapi, tvaya chapi.
Doctor, one last question. Talking about atheism, why is it some people who doesn't believe there's a God, right? There was a topic about Britain is getting more and more a secular society because so many churches are closing, so many people don't believe in God and that sort of thing. Now these people, they do so well out of life. They're very successful in business, very successful in career and everything. Even my doctor, my GP, he's a Hindu man from Kenya. And he's a very successful man, got big surgeries in so many years, employers and everything. When I went to see him and he started questioning about Krishna consciousness very briefly, so I told him, he said to me, oh, I don't understand this. He said, this is just a lack of scientific knowledge. He said, when I pray, the more I pray, the more I suffer. So I'm an atheist and my son is an atheist. And then in other words, he said to me, people who follow all these principles, they are people like you who is looking for something. So this is what he believes in. It's in other words, a lack of scientific knowledge I'm an atheist, my son's an atheist, we don't believe in God, and yet, in other words, he's so successful, I mean, if you see, he's got MRCP and so many qualifications, and opening a big surgery, employing so many people for so many years, very, very successful. He said, I don't go to temple, I don't believe in God. This is just indoctrination from...
Can I also, sorry, can I add to that point? Is that similarly, most people, or atheists, or even people who are agnostic will say, well, I've been given these five senses and the material world to enjoy, so why do I need, I have got everything I need to enjoy my senses. Why do I, as far as I'm not doing anything bad or hurting anybody, why can't I just carry on enjoying myself? So it's a very similar sort of point.
Why can't we have a peaceful, lusty society?
Yes.
But doesn't the humanitarian work, I mean, Prabhu, a doctor, is doing so many things to help people in distress, in pain, all that kind of thing.
Wait a minute,
So that's reduction.
that's making money, by the way.
Yes, but
Is he
there are
doing it
other
for
side
free?
to it as well.
Hmm?
I mean, he's doing good things as well.
No, but that is again, that's making money also.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so coming, so here in two things you are mixing. First is he being successful, and
that's an example, and many others who's in the same situation, who are
Yeah.
very successful.
well, it has nothing to do. In fact, I would say that say someone who is in the prison house, and because of his expertise and his resources and his contacts and whatever, he has made his prison house very luxurious. He has made the prison house very luxurious. Is that success?
Maybe in his world.
Yeah, for him. But someone who is outside, no matter how many awards you get, like in India, there are prisoners and they have some sporting competitions amongst themselves. So sometimes you'll have, prisoners, they play football or soccer, and one team wins. And they get, sometimes they get some trophy also. Now, he's getting a trophy, a medal, a certificate, winning a football match in the prison house, playing against other prisoners. Now, if he takes that trophy and everything and shows to people outside, I won a football match. Where? In the prison house. What were you doing in the prison house, first of all? Huh? Okay? So, people who are having all of these accolades and accomplishments, but the most important question is that where are you situated? You see, the scripture, they are asking the question that I'm talking about just the success part. Then we'll come to the faith and belief part. So, what is this kind of success? It's like, children who are making sand castles. Sometimes you find, children, they make really very intricate and, good looking sand castles. But those who know what sand castles are, they will not take it seriously. But for the child, everything is a serious affair. The child has spent hours and hours, practically the whole day, making that sand castle. But for the parent, just like a child's play. So similarly, for God, no matter whatever you achieve, it's nothing but sand castle. One wave from the ocean, how long that sand castle will last? Just one wave, everything is washed away. Now, as far as people saying that I'm an atheist, I don't believe in all this God stuff. Well, the question is, do you believe in something? Like you were saying that he believes in science. Hmm? He believes in science. So we are not talking about, we are talking about the principle of belief. You believe in something, which means you are someone's follower. Like, in one particular engineering college I was speaking about this topic, does God exist? And one student, he asked this same question, that he said, you are reading from this book Gita, but this is just a book. Why should I believe in the book? So I said, you are from this college? And coming to this college, you are wanting to become an engineer, which means the books are provided by the college. Why are you believing in those books? So he said, those are scientific books. I said, who said Bhagavad Gita is not scientific? No, but somebody has written. I said, your books also somebody has written. So the same logic I was using. He said, well, can be experimented. I said, this also can be experimented. Everything is, it's not just hypothesis. You can experiment and you can see the results. So he, in order to win the argument, he says, I'm just studying these engineering books, but I don't believe in these books. Now that was just to win the argument. So I said, oh, which means then you are cheating. Which means if you are getting a degree over here and you become an engineer or whatever, you will simply, to earn money, you are using this university and those books. Otherwise you don't believe in the subject. And I said, no, I don't believe. So then I asked, what do you believe in? He said, I don't believe in anything. So I asked, how do you address your father? And he said, what kind of question is that? I said, yeah, it's a very simple question. How do you address your father? He said, Daddy, or my father. I said, how do you know that person whom you address as father is your father? How do you know? He said, well, my mother told me. Belief? Blind belief? Just because your mother told that this person is your father, you are believing your mother? You are a scientific man. How come you are blindly believing? So he said, I can do the DNA test. So I said, have you done that? Now, everyone knew that he was just, faking it. He said, yes, I've done the DNA test of my father. I said, when did you do that? He said, 4 years ago. How old are you now? He said, 20 years old. Which means for 16 years, who was that man? Whom you called your father, who was that man? So herein, forget about whether God exists or not. If you are an atheist, then follow your logic of atheism. Stop believing in everything. Then you are a bona fide atheist. Only when it comes to God, all the disbelief comes up. But when it comes to earning money, when it comes to earning degrees, and all the other stuff, all the sense gratification, then yes. And now your question, that if someone is asking that God has given us all the senses, yes, Prabhupada told us that God has given us how to rightly use the senses. Yes, you should properly use the senses. Prabhupada said we are not against sense gratification. we teach the right kind of sense gratification. Scriptures are not against sense gratification. You name the sense gratification is there, performed in a religious way.
Sorry, I was referring to the general public who say, well, I'm not doing any harm, so I can go out drinking, dancing, whatever, enjoying other people's company and, eating meat or whatever it is.
Eating meat, you're not harming?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. They are saying that's what they believe. That I even heard on the way home on Saturday, on the way home, there was a debate on the radio about meat eating, and one of the person phoning in says, "Well, I like my animals to be brought up in a nice way." So, because they were discussing pigs actually, and she was very concerned about the welfare of the pig until it got killed for her to go on her plate. So in this country, the debate was that some farmers are not looking after the pigs before they get slaughtered, and she was very worried that her bacon or sausages came from a farm that wasn't looking after her pigs. But she was quite happy to have those from a farm that looked after the pigs. So I'm just saying, and I could see the simple ignorance in the logic. But I'm saying that majority of the people in this country or in the Western world apply that logic. The welfare of the, as far as they're well looked after the animals, it's okay to kill them and eat them. So it's yeah, well, I mean, that's open to debate.
Yeah. So see, if somebody is saying that there is nothing wrong in slaughtering animals and eating their meat, as long as you take care of them first. So well then, what's wrong in cannibalism? If you properly take care. Huh? Why don't you then make that as, lawful? Why that is unlawful? You know what that is? Cannibalism.
Sorry, it's unlawful, yes.
No, you know what cannibalism is?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So then, if one human being is taking care of the other human being properly, before, and even the slaughtering is done in a very polished way. Puts the garland first, decorates that person, performs worship, arati and everything. Will that be justified? So then why, meat is meat. Like in India, there was this big debate, one of the states in India, in Maharashtra, the beef is banned. So, uproar over there, and some writers, so-called modern thinkers, they were saying that. So what is the difference, goat's flesh, or pig's flesh, cow's flesh? What is the difference? So one writer, in reply to this, one lady writer, she wrote back to her that why don't you add some more in that list? What's the difference? Flesh is flesh. Whether cow's flesh, goat's flesh, pig's flesh, your relative's flesh. Whoever that relative is. Flesh is flesh. Why don't you include that? Why discriminate? She went on to write. It was quite a heavy one. She went on to write. You are a lady, so Man is man, whether you're a husband, whether you're a father, whether you're a son. Why discriminate? Why discriminate? So why do we discriminate? Because we have been, by default, given the intelligence to discriminate. What is good, what is bad, what is right, what is wrong, what is ethical, what is unethical, what is moral, what is immoral. In fact, even the animals, they discriminate. So, why not we? Anyways, that's a very elaborate subject. But suffice it to say that when it comes to, practicing Krishna consciousness, in conclusion, I would say that personally, I myself, I was very much moved and impressed by the logic which was presented. And logic means that it was not forced upon. When I read the Gita with seriousness, I understood that nowhere Krishna forces Arjun to do what Krishna is asking Arjun to do. Never he forces. He is always telling Arjun, you get an experience. And that is how, as practitioners of Krishna consciousness, as presenters of Krishna consciousness, remember, as practitioners, soon you will become presenters of Krishna consciousness. Presenters doesn't mean giving a big talk. Presenter means by your example, whoever comes in contact with you. So as practitioners, as presenters, we have to always understand that we have to give them the experience of Krishna consciousness, not impose upon them. When we give them the experience, that experience will change their heart. And that's what is the sum and substance of being matured in both practice and in the presentation. And that is what we have to learn as followers of Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.